Hey everyone, welcome to Ripstop on the Record. I'm Jameson. If you're a normal maker, then you feel a roller coaster of emotions while making something. And if you've thought about why that is, it has a lot to do with the mindset that we bring to the sewing table. I wanted to dig in to the mentality of a maker, whether that was the good, the bad, the hilarious, the tumultuous, the infuriating, or even the spiritual side. And this is where our guest comes in. Digging into the mindset is where the YouTuber, maker, designer, tattoo artist, digital artist, bike builder, and a lot more, Dustin Klein, comes in. He knows all about the mental swings of a project. Think of him kind of as your Portland-inspired Yoda to your Skywalker. So if you want to hear about curating your own style, changing your expectations to get further, modifying gear, and finding flow in your projects, then you're going to love this episode. But first, a couple updates. You'll notice if you're watching YouTube that I'm wearing this sweet Superior Wilderness Designs hat. We're getting ready for trail days. It's coming up and SWD is going to be there. In fact, they're sending a bunch of packs. So if you'd like to try on an SWD pack, then come check it out. You'll be able to see mediums, larges, different styles, different fabrics, all sorts of things. But not to mention, there will be a lot of other makers and gear there. So we're going to have people from Almonds Right. Olivia and Jen will be there. We're going to have people from Nashville Pack. We will see UGQ things there. We'll have stuff from Walhalla Hammock. Hightail Designs is going to be there. We'll have stuff from Learn MYOG. There will be all sorts of equipment represented at our booth at AT Trail Days 23. So come see us in Damascus. We're giving away free stuff. We have lots of cool things to check out, including special limited edition AT Trail Days items. Also, today's a pretty big day. It is Wednesday the 10th, which means we just released continuous printed DCF. First time ever, you can now get whatever color you would like on a full roll of DCF. So choose one of our 1,260 RGB colors and put it on your preferred dynamic composite fabric, 10143 or 292, now available. Also, new notions and tools are live now, so go check them out. Meanwhile, we're going to get to the episode. One more interruption before we get to the episode. I just wanted to give you a heads up and apologize for some technical difficulties that we have in this recording. We were facing some real connectivity issues on both of our internets, but especially here at the studio at Ripstop. There are significant portions of this episode where you just don't hear me or I almost don't exist. It's because my internet went out. So Dustin asked himself the questions and gave the answers. So you'll hear some weird bits in there, and it was not Dustin's fault at all. I just wasn't on the episode. The internet didn't want me to be. So if you hear some weird parts, that's largely it. And if you're watching the YouTube video, then you'll notice where my video just cuts out, or maybe I make a really weird face. I don't even know what happens exactly because I couldn't bear to watch it again. But you'll notice some weird bits. But this is a totally great episode. It's 100% worth it. But if you happen to notice some weird chunks, it's because of the connectivity. So if you would bear with us, that would be great. And sorry. As you can tell, we're in a new studio here. We just moved into our phase 2 section. So starting soon, we should be able to hardwire into the network and hopefully don't have these technical issues as frequently as we've had in the past. So thank you for dealing with all of this, but still a great episode, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, Dustin, welcome to the episode.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I thought I had done a lot of prep for this episode. I've seen a lot of your YouTube videos and I follow you on Instagram and stuff like that. And as I normally do, I had this thought, like, maybe I have to watch like one more Dustin Klein YouTube video or one more Everything's Been Done to like make sure I'm really prepped. Like that last one will really do it. And sure enough, that one that I did watch kind of changed the outline. We had a good outline and it's already being tossed around a bit. I watched a video. I typed in YouTube. I was like, Dustin Klein sewing. It's like, I know he's done some, let me find it. And the video that came up was titled, I made this, you can too, making a Klum House backpack on a home machine. That title is
old
perfect. One. It is. It's like 3 years old now or so. And I read that, I'm like, I made this is one of our taglines, making a backpack and on a home machine, like you killed our CEO already. So I want to start out with that video. Tell the listeners about what you did there.
Well, my wife does, she teaches sewing and she specifically teaches bag making on home machines. And the materials are wax canvas, leather, and like hardware. So like rivets and like simple buckles and stuff. So she was like, we're making this new backpack. You should come over to the studio and make one. I was like, okay, I'll make a video about it. So it was cool. Like she, guided me through it. I have some sewing experience. She has much more. She's a sewing teacher. So yeah, it worked great. I use the bag to this day, like on the regular too. So yeah, it's cool. Like you guys, and her company's called Klum House. You guys in Klum House have like very similar values. It sounds like empowering people to produce their own goods. It's easier. Maybe I should say it's more obtainable than one thinks it is.
Watching that video made me think maybe we need to have your wife on the podcast too, because I didn't, I'm used to your YouTube channel and you have a huge following in your own right, and I was like, wait, this is really, really cool. They seem to have a rad thing going. But I mean, we did want to talk to you for a lot of reasons as well. You're a maker, not in a lot of the ways that we're used to talking to people. We're used to talking to people kind of like your wife, designers, gear makers, people that make tents, backpacks, apparel, things like that. But I really wanted to get into like the DIYer's mindset with you, because creating, one of our kind of primary mottos is helping people create their own path. And I think that's something that you very much champion on your YouTube channel. And I don't want to give away too many things now, but I guess to start out, what are some things that you make, or like in what channels are you a maker?
Yeah, I think ultimately at the core, I am a maker, artist, creator, like whatever adjective works that doesn't trigger that's what I am. And at one point I realized that that's what I am. And through that, I also realized that it really doesn't matter what the medium is. There are mediums, like painting, sewing, video, whatever. There are mediums that attract people more than another. And I would say like, always go towards the ones that like pull or speak to you. But as I've gone through this path of life, I've really realized like the medium is like, it's flexible. It's not set in stone for me at least. So I just like making like, and I will kind of just follow that, like whatever's interesting. Like recently I've just been into like modifying like weird things, like changing the emblems on my vehicle, or like adding like messing with graphics on a thing. Like it's very almost intangible. Sometimes it's functional, sometimes it isn't, but as long as it satiates the need to make, and often it's made with hands, but not always, those are the things I make. What a non-answer. I should be a politician.
So that was, you kind of started to answer my next question with the last bit there. Like, what are the qualifications for you of something that kind of gets you interested, like with your hands, but also like you're kind of a digital artist in a lot of ways, and a lot of what you do is digital. So it's not with your hands, but it's not as hands-on as like building a bike, like what are some of those like prerequisites for you that get your mind into that flow state, or kind of, or just intrigue you?
Yeah, love this question. So there's kind of like two main mindsets of like what direction to go for making things. And I would say the biggest like fork in the road between the two is this for commerce or like monetary survival, or is this free making? And they're very different things. And I at one point realized like, oh, like I moved to San Francisco and I saw these people doing stuff, and I was like, oh, you can make things for a living. Like you can be an artist for a living. Like I had no idea. So then it was like, okay, like I want to do that. But the things that you make for a living have like a different weight and expectation that things that you make for, you could say, your soul, or just for fun, or for the pure joy and inspiration of it. So finding what those two things are is, let me retract that a little bit. I honestly think exploring the things that are fun, interesting, flow, just like kind of fun. Yeah. Make life exciting. Those things can lead, they can have a bunch of way markers to things that you could make for a living. Yeah. And, again, the expectation is different between the two. And I think once you get one, you should never abandon the other. Like that balance is really important. They just align the third, 12th chakra of the thumb. I don't know what it does, but it's important to keep that balance going.
Yeah,
How
I
was that
think
for a
it's.
noun
I
answer?
think you're right. I think it's a 30-12 chakra. I believe that's correct. Um, I think that's something more people need to hear. Actually, it's something that. So Carter and Isaac, they're the listeners know who they are. They're our products team here, and they. It's funny you mentioned that because we always get in like these debates where I make a ton of stuff, or like I just love. Well, yeah, I just make a lot of things, and they're not always super refined, and they're not always perfect. And Carter and Isaac. They make a different level of things. Whatever they make, they want to make it perfect. And I think you actually kind of nailed it there, where we always get in these debates where they're like, why are you just making random stuff? Because it's not about the product. I want to be in the making process. And I think that you totally nailed the difference, where for them, like they are the professionals. So they have to make things that are perfect because it is like making for a living, right? And like they want to make sure they're only doing things that are professionally done, where like it is not a part of my job and it is just doing it for my soul. So I'm surprised it's taken us that long to think about it. That's a great point. I want more makers to kind of not forget about that part of, even if you make a backpack that doesn't end up being super functional, it does not mean that it was a waste of time at all.
Absolutely not. Very valuable. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. You will learn from every one of those. It won't feel like it. It'll feel crappy, like, oh, failure. But it's kind of this, like, you have to just trust in it, that it is doing something. Yeah. Oh, I had so many things to say there and I just lost them based off of. Oh, perfection.
Mm.
I do nothing perfect. I never strive for perfection. It's this elusive headache that you self-impose that's loaded with pressure, expectation, and all the things that kill joy. Fuck perfection. It's not necessary. It does not serve. You can strive for better, but perfection doesn't exist. All that's going to do is set you up to fail in a way that will not teach one. So let go of perfection. And as soon as you let that go, there's all this freedom. There's no expectation. There's no right. There's no wrong. It's just allowing, this goes back to before, is allowing yourself to be free to make whatever it is. Food, a hat, a bag, a drawing, like representational, non-representational. None of that really matters. It is about the process and getting in tune with what feels good and getting into it and achieving like a flow state or just a rhythm or just simply enjoying it. That is the ultimate success in making, period. And then from there, you can build from that, and I want it to look like this or function like that. Like, sure, it can evolve, but that is like the gold of making in my eyes.
I love that.
I
I
got
love
wound
that.
up there.
I want, what is, yeah, let's tap into that even more. Like, what's a recent example of something where you were making where you like made a mistake and then you're like, this is cool anyway. Like, I'm still cool with this because it's not about perfection.
That is a very awesome, like that's like a pull the scab kind of question. I think that's something that I constantly battle with, honestly. So you have to, whenever I say you, I'm talking about
Sure.
me. You have to proactively, like it's really about like kind of pushing through this discomfort or this fear or this like anxiety, like, oh, this drawing doesn't look like what it's supposed to. And like as much as possible resisting that and just like the act of doing it. And it happens constantly. And it's funny, like that mental pressure will make a piece look worse in like a drawing capacity,
Sure.
opposed to like zero expectation and just flow it out. It will just have like the man, woo statement. That energy in it will just like make the piece, the drawing, the scrap just have like way more life to it. Yeah, it's a constant. It's not a switch. Life is a spectrum. And there's ups and downs to every moment of it. Political answer?
I'm not even sure which avenue I want to take. I've got like different, like making, more philosophical, more mindset. um, okay, yeah. So I want to tap into your making piece, so people have this picture. You are a bike guy, so you build bikes. You also have like repainted bikes, and not just like a $100 bike that you pick up on the side of the road, but like you have nice bikes that you repaint. You repainted your helmets. You have had an apparel company in the past. You do digital art. You're a tattoo artist too, right? As
Yeah.
well as, do you do like typography stuff? I think as well. You have a lot of different things that you're into, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many, I suppose. But those are following the thing that's interesting.
Mm,
Ultimately, like just follow the thing that's interesting. And people be like, "Oh, jack of all, master of none." Like,
yeah.
whatever. Just follow what feels good.
Yeah.
And the more you do them, the better they'll get. That's a life hack for everything. We all know it, but it's good to rehear it.
Something else that I wanted to pick your brain on, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to steer away from the mindset piece, but just sort of another bridge for us is
Mm-mm.
helping people create their own path. Again, it's something that you do a lot of, where I'm going to talk about your bike specifically, but and the first bike comes to mind of yours, you have a Villiers, like very nice carbon gravel bike that you repainted. Where do you go when you get this bike, this machine, and then you think, I would like to repaint this? I'm going to some people, this would be like defacing it, right? It would be to take this beautiful entity and be like, I'm going to put my own signature on it. Or like some people would say it's like the mustache in the Mona Lisa. We do custom printing here, and we help people have the ability where they can make their outdoor gear less black and gray, right? Like this pack. That's a pack that I made where it's got hex camo on it. Crazy stuff.
Well, pull that
But a
in
lot
a
of
little
people get
bit. I
stuck.
want. Oh, I'm familiar with this.
Yeah.
Yes.
But a lot of people get stuck on the design side. They're like, well, there's 300
Yeah.
options, or I could print my
Too many
own.
options.
How do you hone that in? And how would you suggest other people hone that in when they're looking at, I want a
Mm,
custom backpack, but I don't know what to
love it.
choose. There's like 9,000 prints and images and like colors and all these things.
Yeah. So first, all the things, or like I modify everything I own. 90% of the things I own. Unless something is just like so good that I
Yeah.
can't figure out how to change it, then I will just run it. But it's slightly ridiculous. I ended up doing a clothing company based off of this thing. The whole first 7 years of the brand was actually me buying blanks and modifying them. So modifying is just like I don't know. I fucking love doing it because you can do it so simply with like a slider pull. Take one off of one jacket, put it on a different jacket. Boom. No stress, no pressure. It's different. And yeah, like modify, customize, like make it your own. Like own that thing. Like like just like logo and just the thing. Like to me, like whatever. I guess it is self-expression in a sense. I'm compelled to do that. So as just like an aside for that. But for anyone else that's like, okay, like I got a thing and I want to make it, and you're confronted with like how to customize it, too many options is like it's so much pressure. I completely understand this. Too many colors, too many patterns, like I don't know what to do. So what I would do in that scenario is like a Pinterest, or it's not even that simple. Like just go into life and know like, okay, this bag, like I want to make a custom bag. Like what kind of bags do I see that look interesting? And what kind of things do I see that are interesting? Like, oh, that yellow pickup with the red logo. Like just, it's like cultivating this practice of what interests you. It's like the greatest, funnest, easiest thing to do, and it has massive effect on like all the things that how you like navigate through life. So like always the hardest part is to notice and to like try to make like a mental note. Maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's a like a physical note, but the more you do it, you build this muscle of like, okay, like I'm really like attracted to stripes right now. Like, okay, that's a decision. Boom, stripes. Like, and at some point You just have to make a decision because nothing is too precious. Even the like $1 billion house that you only get one shot, like whatever, like you got to make a choice. Deadlines can also be very, very helpful for this because it forces you to make decisions. And then
Yeah.
each step, you're like, okay, solid color pattern. I like patterns. Boom, decision. How many, you like a lot of colors, like minimal colors, boom, decision. Like each step, just kind of just see what notice what you enjoy and try and break those down. Like, oh, I like the minimal colors on that camo pattern. I liked how it was like almost like digital, like, oh, video game background. Like they're okay. Like maybe that's interesting, like, and then lead into the point where you just have to finally be like, okay, it's the fifth. Like, I guess I'm just picking these 3 colors on that pattern because on to the next.
You said something
And
fascinating
tangent.
there, I think, which is I haven't heard it explained this way, but I love it, which is like you almost explained how we refine what we like, kind of using it like a muscle. It's almost like it's like a mindfulness training thing, but for your design style, where it's like the more you practice, when you ask yourself, why do I like that? What about that do I like? I love that. And
That's
I
the
definitely never thought
trick.
about it that way.
Is
But
what
how,
do you like? Like notice there's one, and then the
mhm.
next, like the depth of it is what is it about it?
What are ways, so like some people, so kind of this way that you're explaining how you practice curating your design. You see something, why do I like that? What do I like about it? What ways do you practice that? Some people are like Pinterest people and they save things. What are tangible ways that you exercise this muscle of curating your design or your creative scape?
Ultimately, like the baseline is just always keep it in your forefront whenever I'm doing anything. Driving, walking, cycling, like just, and I'm a visual artist. So anything that I visually see interesting, just note it. Like it doesn't matter, like pickups are stupid, but that pickup's interesting. So okay, like just anything interesting, whether it's something that you're supposed to like or not supposed to like, always just note it. And then if there's a project, that's where it kind of, it gets more like, is it a shirt graphic? Like what shirt graphics are interesting, or that thing's like interesting, but it doesn't work for the project I'm working on. So like just acknowledge and accept it, but look for something else. And you can kind of put in your mind like, oh, I'm looking for patterns right now. I'm looking for fonts, like, and it kind of can help kind of just guide the things that you observe. Yeah. So project, yeah, ultimate everything, and then specifics based on whatever you're wanting to accomplish, I guess.
So one of the questions I wrote down was how do you merge bike and style? But I'm wondering if that question isn't as pertinent, but it's like, how do you merge everything and style? Because it's not like you don't seem like a super like boxed person, right? It seems like you allow things to kind of infiltrate each other and let that inspire how each of those flow. Is that right?
Oh, cool. That is like a very interesting observation that is 100% true, but I wouldn't, like, I'm too inside of it. Like I couldn't
Sure.
see that. Because one of the things that I love the most about making is the like happy accidents. Like, it's like my favorite thing in the world is that. So you'll try and like set up these things and like, oh, like there was one, like it's totally like a game, always hunting for the happy accidents. And so how does style integrate? I think style is very important, and it's kind of this because I'm such a visual person. So style from my perspective is like things that are considered. So if someone considers like all the parts of like an style outfit, right? Like if they consider like how the hat works with the whole thing, I have so much respect for it because it looks interesting. It's unique. It's kind of like exciting to see. And whether it's on yourself or on someone else, like just considering the things, even if you consider the things and they don't work, it's still considered. And to me, they're like, that's like a win, or that's accomplished. Yeah. I don't
How do
remember the answer
you
to anything. And now you're gone. So I don't
Oh no, not again.
I can hear you though.
Okay. All right. We'll keep as long
You're
as you can hear
back.
me. So I would imagine, man, we're getting all sorts of places. I would imagine that you have a cool outlook on like completion as well then, right? Like there's probably not like something being done or like, oh no, this project is totally finished. Yeah, I don't know. What how does that hit you when I say like this thing is done versus like the process?
It depends if there's a deadline.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love deadlines. That's why how I make a video a week, because I just have to do it. So you do perfection out, production in. That's just my vibe.
Hmm.
Because I also know the more that I do something, the better I'll get at it. So that's like my like weird backwards way of kind of chasing. I don't even want to say it out loud. Yeah, interesting. So, but not but some projects just like aren't necessarily done too. Like
Hmm.
I'll think of like this van I have. Like I just love like messing with it, like giving it style. Like, oh, I want to add a thing, or I'm going to take an emblem off, or I'm going to switch an emblem, or like it's kind of like I'll do a step and then I'll just kind of like enjoy just like looking at it and like thinking like, oh yeah, like, oh, what if it had some lights here, or like, and it's just kind of this ongoing thing, and it's the purpose of hmm, the fact that it doesn't have a finish line is like kind of important, which is interesting because I'd actually never thought of that until you just brought that up.
That could be really interesting kind of piece
Yeah.
for makers to think about too. Like, I mean, yeah, like I'm thinking to people that we're talking to, most of our people are making like backpacks and tents and like these outdoor gear pieces. It's an interesting concept of having a project in your project Rolodex or whatever that is
Yeah.
intentionally not done. Like I have a hard time leaving things. Like if I dive into a project, I finish it in like
Cool.
2 days because I can't like I'm just super occupied on like I'm just super tied to it. And I'm wondering if that's common for a lot of makers, and I know it kind of is, but I also wonder if it's important to have projects in your back pocket that intentionally can't be done. Like if it's part of like strengthening our maker's muscles, sort of like, hey, let this thing continue. Like, what if you left it for a week, and what else would come to mind if you left it instead of having to finish it really soon? That's an interesting idea, and I wonder if that could be really powerful for a lot of makers to have this thing where like, no, I have to leave it to get the most out of it later, or maybe not to get the most out of it because that's like very quantitative still, but like maybe I leave it to see how it like how does it affect me and how do I interact with that feeling of it being undone, and then what does that mean for the maker process and like our mindset afterwards.
Yeah, it is it's it can't be every like not anything can be that. Like a
Right.
backpack,
Right.
like it kind of like does, and also what you have is like a crazy superpower. So many people love to start things. That's the
Yeah.
most romantic moment, and then just like abandon.
Yeah.
So like the full through to completion is like superpower. That's remarkable. Yeah.
And it's
Bravo, bravo.
thank you, and it's terrifying sometimes. Like I think, yeah, last week I had it in my head, I was like, I need to build a mesh tent. I need to build
Cool.
like an inside of a tent. And by the end of the week, Carter and Isaac, who are also two of my friends, they walked in, they're like, oh, how's it going? I'm like, it's done. How much sleep did you get this week? I'm like, maybe not enough, but it is complete.
Whoa, like
So
so driven. You'll push those other things aside for the project.
yeah, yeah, because it's so once I get into the project and it's full, you know, and like the design is done in my head, and I have the components and the fabric selected, and then this, you know, all the schematics and all the drawings, and I know what I want it to look like. I want to see what it looks like because there's that gap in the middle of
Mm,
when it's I have it written out and I have a really good idea, but it's not a physical form of it yet. It's still on a piece of paper. That's the hardest time because I'm like,
right.
but what am I going to figure out in the middle that I don't know yet? Because all the drawings in the world will not really give you a full representation of what's going to be when you finish making.
No.
Every maker, I hope this might just be me thing, but every time you make something, you're going to hit probably a lot of roadblocks that you didn't foresee happening, and that's like a really scary moment. But it's
Yes.
also the reason that I want to make things is to get to that point where I'm like, shoot, didn't see this one coming. So how am I going to make it through it now?
Yeah, that moment is a really the crossroads, basically. Those crossroads can be very interesting, and how we deal with them can be very interesting.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Like, who did I learn this from recently? Someone was like, "Oh, I've hit a crossroads and I'm going to figure it out." Like, just that as a mantra is like so helpful. Like, I would usually hit a crossroad and be like, am I going to figure this out? Like, can I figure this out? But just that mental, like, coach for yourself, like, you're going to figure it out. Like, it's just a matter of how. And
Yeah.
it's so true. Every project has an answer. And often there's like several versions, several ways to answer it too. Yeah, it can feel like the world's going to fall apart when you hit a deadline or a roadblock in the middle of a project. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's ruined. I'm never going to get it done.
Yeah. Because it doesn't, and to your point, because it doesn't match the expectation that we had previously, right? That roadblock can be so like upsetting to us because we're going to have to change the picture that we had in our mind before we started what it should be.
Uh, to me, it doesn't change the end result. To me, it's like
Mm.
going along, and then there's this thing that just like, it's like, I don't know how to fucking do this. Like, now I have to figure out how to do this other thing. Like, fuck. And I'll kind of like freak out. Like, I'm never going to get it done. Like, how am I going to figure it? Well, it's like, just chill out. Like, you're going to figure it out. And that's actually like, those are great times to like take a break, go for a walk, just like separate just a little bit, even if it's just like around the yard or something. Yeah, and just kind of let those things percolate. Or sometimes it takes a ton of research too. You're like, you just got to.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the frustrating thing because you're like, I want to finish this, but now I have to go over here to learn how to like weld plastic. Come on, I just want to finish the project.
I want to go back to something you touched on earlier because it's like totally a tenet of MYOG or make your own gear, like one of our kind of like our industry terms. Modifying. You mentioned that earlier, like how you modify everything. I love that you brought it up because, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is that like I say this in the most respectful way possible. We have a lot of designers and gear makers, and the people we have on the episodes we have a lot of the same people. They're all really fascinating, really, really cool. And you don't exactly fit that bill, which is exactly why I wanted to talk to you because I was hoping we would come to these similarities where, like you said, modification. I was like, yes, like that's totally one thing that we do all the time. And I wanted to hear it and like how you got there from not a totally different perspective. Like you've sewn gear, you've made gear, like we have a lot of similarities, but you're not like a bag designer, in the same way that some of the people that we talk to. So modification, I was going to ask a question, but I think it's already too tailored. When you get something, like, do you get something and plan to modify it right away, or do you let it happen after you see it? You said maybe 80 to 90% of your things are modified. I don't know. I just want to talk about modification more because I think that's a huge piece for a lot of people that make their own gear.
Well, I think that's where that's where I shift into like designer mode, and I want it. Ultimately, I don't want to modify anything because that means that product was like spot on. But in the defense of all brands and all designers everywhere, it is impossible to design something perfect for all the fucking people out there. It does not exist. So I'll get something and live with it. Same with the bikes. That bike that I painted camo, I was like, I got it. I was like, yeah. Oh no, that one I didn't build up first. But generally, like, I'll get it and I'll use it. Best case scenario, use it a little bit. Even if I know I don't like it and I want to do something, I just have to like have it a little bit and like sit with the thing that sucks about it. And I'll be like, why? Like, this looks gross. Or like, because I'm using it, I'll be like, I need a pocket right here because I just know that that's where the thing should be. Or like, this needs a blank. Like, that's how I know what to change is through the use of it. And modifying is awesome because it's so much harder to build something from the ground up. And when you do that, it generally doesn't work function that baseline version of it, even what I want it to be. So like modifying is like standing on the shoulders of like production teams and factories and like massively skilled sewers. And then you can add your janky pocket or strap to it. I'm not the best sewer in the world.
Neither am I.
We lost him again.
Oh, geez.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Ripstop by the Yard. Make, modify, repair. Those, I would say modify, repair, and then make. Because make for me is at the end, because then I really know if something doesn't exist from scratch, then it needs to come into the world. And so much of the stuff, no, that's not true. I was going to say, functional, aesthetic. I guess aesthetic does have a functional side to it. But like, yeah, it's a balance. I'm not one or the other. I got one. Okay, so sewing. Oh, I should just look at the questions that you sent. Okay. If you were to design a bike bag, what would you make? The idea of making a bike bag is completely overwhelming. Even being married to someone who started a messenger bag company when they were 17 years old. I think part of that is sometimes I get this, like maker paralysis because I've made so many things. I'll stop projects before they start because I know what goes into it. I'll be like, ugh, sounds like a lot to do. But if I did make one, I would, I can go a few ways on this. I hear this all the time. People want to make their own bike packing bags to go bike packing. First of all, bike packing is in the romantic category. It's one of these things that sounds amazing. The photos are great. You love telling all your friends. But the reality of it is it's exhausting, dirty, very hard work, often in way too much sun. And if you're lucky, there's water. So making your own bags is also in this category. It's romantic. It's not easy to do. The first 3 are going to suck. It's going to take a lot of time and resources to make that thing. This is coming from somebody that knows how to sew. I can order food in sewing. I'm not no chef over here, but we can get by. So if all of that set up, if I was going to make a bag, I would probably make one of these half frame bags. They're just, right now, I think they're the most functional bag for rides. They sit in the frame in the middle, right up by the head tube. And they just don't move a lot, and you can still get your water bottles. So those are cool. And they're not that technical. So I think that's probably the move. And after all of that, the whole diatribe of how hard it is, I think it would make an interesting video because people love to talk about how much they think they want to make their own bags. And it's harder than you think, but you could still do it with a home machine, which is great. Actually, my wife teaches on the Singer HD. Is that a home machine that you guys, or I guess the question would be, what home machines do you tell people that they should look into? What color patterns would you use? Ooh, it depends. Oh, that's what they use too. Man, that machine, the Singer HD. There's actually one right here. It's just called the Singer Heavy Duty. It's like the perfect small home machine that can deal with pretty much everything you're going to give to it. If it can't deal with it, you're on the right track. And then if you're at that level, just, keep going and it'll all work out. I see an industrial in your future. Colors and patterns. That's a really hard question. I think at this point, I would probably make that frame bag for a specific bike. I have a lot of bikes and a lot of bikes that I just borrow too. So it's kind of like what you were saying before about style. Style on the bike matters too. Man, if the outfit matches the bike and not like all just the same color, but like if there's a harmony of patterns and colors to the detail of the bike bag also, that's next level. And then the helmets and the shoes, like there's some major luck or coordination going on there. Oh, it's the Timex watch of sewing machines. Yeah, I would say so. I'm so stoked to hear that thing is it takes a licking and keeps hunting. It's not a walking foot though, is it? I don't think it is. That's actually an interesting. Any luck with audio video? Nothing. Just 3 dots, just slowly moving across the screen. This is like, will they have to record your questions? What do they call them? As pickups? Like, so this and this and that. Good luck, because I don't know if any of my answers are cohesive enough. Oh, this was one thing I was going to say. For sewing, I've sewn for a very long time. In 2003, I started a lifestyle cycling apparel company, and I did it as a one-man band for 7 years. And through that process, that journey, I ended up like learning how to sew, in large part thanks to my now current wife. And I've never been the tightest sewer. Sewing kind of tends to lean towards patience. Take your time, go slow. You're going to get a better result. This is 100% true. But here's some bad advice. If you don't want to slow down and if you just want to like get it done, you absolutely can. But be sure that that thing is not going to look that good. It will function, but it's going to look like kind of ratty. Stitches, maybe it's a little crooked, like, you know? So that's a thing that it took me a long time to figure that out with sewing. I used to think you had to do it fast because you had to, like, I don't know, beat the clock or something. Not true. Take your time, let it be slow, try to enjoy the process, and the results are going to be so much better if you care. If you just want it done, just scramble that thing together and it will work, but it will not look that great. Just let it be known. A lot of my stuff is in mostly the latter category. Where do I find inspiration? It would depend on the project. I've noticed that there's not necessarily like one thing that will inspire everything. So if it's like videos, like kind of what I was saying before is I'll have to kind of shift my mind if I'm watching things or when I watch things. I'll try and like, okay, like how are they cutting the scene together? How do they start the story? How do they end the story? Like these little specific things. And I'll find things that are like interesting or inspiring from that thinking specifically. And I mean, beyond that, like it's good to take time to input. As makers, artists, we're always outputting. And if you don't fill that well back up, you'll burn out. So museums, classic, bookstores, amazing. Just going for a walk in a place that you're not familiar with, just visually shifting things up is important. Yeah. And just finding things that are interesting. Like I still want to watch that Dungeons and Dragons movie, even though I know it's going to be bad. It sounds kind of interesting.
Luckily and unluckily, we're running the course pretty well, getting closer to the end of the outline. Despite every technical hurdle that we have, I've basically run into. I can't say I've cleared the hurdles. It's just like, if this were a 100-meter hurdle in the Olympics, I would just run through all of them. Not clear.
Knock them down so we know we went through them, right?
Just dragged them all behind me.
That guy hopped over all of them. You can't tell where he came from. He just jumped into the middle of this thing.
Could have just cheated the whole time. So I had a series of rapid fire questions that
cool.
The more I go through this episode, the more I'm thinking that I wonder if they're not best set as rapid fire, but like short monologues of each one, because we've kind of hit on a lot of these anyway, and I'm excited to see how you answer them. So are you ready for these long form rapid fire questions?
Wait, so do you want me to answer quickly or monologue like longer?
I want you to answer longer. I like it when you dive into these. This is all of these things have been good, but I wrote them as rapid fire, so play it out. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
We'll vibe it out.
The open-endedness. Yeah, nothing's going to plan, so we'll just take this one like that as well.
You get used to it after a while.
First question: car camping or tent camping?
Oh no! Did you just ask one?
Oh, no way! It stopped right again.
That is fucking amazing. Okay, oh my god.
Car camping or tent camping?
Car camping.
Love it.
Have you
You've got a
seen
sweet
my
answer.
van? Come on, I put so much work into this thing.
I have, and actually,
Also, I
it's
would
funny you
love to
mentioned
see your version of a car camp thing. I say that weird, but it's just as much work as making a tent. You know what I mean? Like,
that. Yeah,
I would love to see that.
yeah. Next question: camo or solids, like solid colors?
Oh, camo, 100%. And I can go off on this a little bit. One of the main reasons I love camouflage so much is because, like cycling, it's multifaceted. So it's not only visually stimulating, there's a historical element to it. It's somewhat functional in the field. One of the things that I love the most is that it's super functional for dirty people. It hides
Yeah,
dirt. It's fucking awesome. And it's visually stimulating. So yeah, much respect to the camo.
yeah. That's a great point. Actually, I hadn't really thought about it being like it'll look good when dirty and clean for the most part. Maybe even cooler if it's dirty. I don't know. It depends on the camo.
Yeah, if it's like like a solid like yellow shirt, good luck. I could get through a half
Yeah.
a day with that thing. There's like an oil spot here. There's like some grime from something else there. Like camo, you're like, hey, I haven't washed this since 1986. Aside from the smell, you'd never know.
We need more merino camo around. Is what I'm hearing.
Does that exist?
um, I don't know. I don't know if I've actually seen that.
Along the same version of that, tie dye. Because there's like it's kind of like that's a tie dye is like an easy one to do with merino. It dyes really well. So
Yeah.
like and you can dye and it doesn't have to look all hippy dippy. Although if it does, I'm still in.
Next question. This is funny because like you've sort of already answered this, but I'm excited to hear it anyway. Day trip or an overnighter?
I love day tripping myself. Yeah, but if I do a day trip, I'm probably gonna end up spending the night too.
um, monochromatic or bright colors?
Ooh,
Or
awesome question. So monochromatic is one of the greatest ways for someone, which I personally think is everyone, who's curious to start wearing color. It's the greatest way to start exploring it because you don't have to color can be so overwhelming. Just pick a color that you like. Even if you don't like it, pick an outfit that just has the same color and go from there. And eventually you'll start adding bright color. You take the all blue outfit and you add like a red hat, boom. Like, yeah, monochrome is the gateway to bright
I like that. The
in any
gateway to bright.
capacity. If you're making a
Yeah.
bag, an outfit, a bike, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, because you really are kind of a champion of both. Like you like to wear a lot of black, like you like to wear, but also in one of your more recent videos, you rode the Canyon Grizzle, which is like a
Yeah.
orange bike, and you had like orange and pink shoes, and you had like a purple like
Yeah.
ensemble as well. So like you kind of you'll do it all.
I love color. The only hook with color though is like I th- black is easy for everybody because it goes with everything and like camo it's like very good with dirt. When you start like getting all these like different crazy colors, like they will contrast. They do not always work with each other. So in like a weird way you kind of need more stuff, which is sort of like
Yeah,
kind of bullshit, like less is more.
yeah,
But I'm not afraid of color. And like, yeah, I'm so into it. And there's like a fun challenge to it. Like, oh, and also too, like just pick a thing. Like I want this purple jersey. Start with the one thing that's interesting, a pair of socks, like whatever. And just like from what you have, or if you don't have it, you'll know what you want. build it from that. Not that you, not that you asked. So how do you make a wacky outfit? Well,
this is a great one because this has to do with bike packing. Traditional bike packing or credit card bike packing?
oh, it depends. Either or, they're both
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, generally bike packing means like off road. You know what I would say? It's both. Like if you're going
Mm.
along long enough, that hotel is like the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. But it depends. If you
Uh,
got to get somewhere fast, like it's super fun to just like smash with a lightly loaded down bike and just stay at hotels. It's like so cool. But this equally awesome to just like be on some cutty back roads and like stay in places you're not supposed to stay. Like they're both like they both serve purposes.
so now we're kind of going to the text side. Block fonts or script fonts, like as a base, obviously.
I guess nerd alert, sans serif is probably what I would say. Uh, yeah, or is it hand drawn?
I think you're one of the only people I could ask that question to and have them give like a legit answer. Most people be like, "What do you? Why are you asking me this?" But I
Like
knew you would appreciate it.
whatever the phone does.
What's iPhone? Drop bar bikes or flat bar bikes?
It depends. I'm like way too deep to have like a strong opinion on that. Life is a
Okay,
spectrum.
good. Best answer. um, Style or function?
That's a tough question. I jump between both. Yeah, it's totally case by case. Sometimes you can wear those shoes that are a little too tight because they look just right. Mile 80, you're like, God, I'm such an idiot. But
All right.
ultimately, I would say function reigns supreme. Ultimately,
Mm,
that's kind of the, yeah. Like
yeah.
if I had to choose, I would say function, and then style out from that.
And to break my own question, that's the beauty of modifying or repairing because you can have both. A little bit
Yeah, well,
mostly.
and you can, yeah, because it alters it, right? But the
Yeah.
function is the most important. Yeah, like because like a bike is pure function. Like there's not much on a bike that
Yeah.
isn't functional. Like you
Right.
can't do a ride without like handlebars, saddle, pedals. Like it's all so essential.
Yeah. Yeah. That is an interesting analogy because the like bike and style are also massive, right? Like the color. I mean, people go to very long lengths to make sure the look is correct. Like, does your bar tape match your saddle? Does your water bottles match? Like, there's a lot of things. But you're right. Like on a bike, it's only the necessities on the machine itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that's so beautiful about it.
yeah,
Bikes are so amazing because they're so multidimensional. They like
yeah,
symbolize and like are the experience of so many different things. It's fascinating, really. You're like, wow, like who knew? And even just think of how many different styles of cycling there are.
yeah,
Dual slalom, BMX, fucking time trial. Like it's like, wow.
yeah. It's also one of the most inviting things. I guess we can hop into a bike soapbox real quick, but I love how it can be for anybody. Like there are
Yes.
people that bike largely just because they commute. Like they don't have any intention of racing or doing a race or going really long. They're just riding it to get to work. And you can be on a bike and just go 3 miles an hour and have the best time. You can go 30 miles and have the best time. I
Yes.
feel like it's the most broad. Like not everyone can run 50 miles and not everyone even wants to, and it's not even that fun for 90% of the time, but you can ride a bike for 5 and has just as good of a time as the different kind of biking.
Yeah, it's so cool. And the fact that you can do it like essentially like infinitely into your life. Like there's
Yes.
not really like you don't really age out of cycling aside from
Yeah.
like if you're aging out of cycling, like there's other things that are life might be stopping. unless you have stopped. That's kind of the one thing.
Yeah.
If you do it and don't stop doing it until the wheels fall off,
Yes.
or the eyes
Yeah.
fall out, or whatever the hell weird
Until you
shit
put the
happens
training
to
wheels back on.
it. Until the wheels. That's right. Welcome to Everything's Been Done. Until the training wheels come back on. Go back on.
Dustin's next episode trying to make a 4-wheel bike or a training wheel bike.
Ooh, a 4-wheel bike.
Um, next, not so rapid fire, fanny pack or sling bag. So as you mull over that, we are huge fanny pack proponents here. And I wasn't a big fanny pack person until I started working here, but now total convert. I've got a fanny pack for like stand-up paddleboarding, cycling. I took it on my bike packing trip. Like, yeah. So like but you get the bag thing. I've heard you talk about the bag thing a lot for camera gear and cycling stuff, but that's the background. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, fanny pack, 100%. It's just functionality.
Yep.
Sling, ugh. For like a fuck, for anything really. That's a fashion move right there. And that I'm like starkly like function only. Yeah. Although I do recently I've been wearing, I call it my action pack. It's like a hydro bag that I don't put water in. Yeah. But it's like my camera bag basically. But it's like a funny, weird, fake backpack kind of a thing. But it basically, that tangenty long way to say like that's my fanny pack. But because I film so much, I can put a camera in they're not even backpack straps. They're these weird like X strap thing. So
is it like a hydration? It's like a hydration vest, right?
It is, yeah. It's from a brand called Uswe, USWE.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. But if I didn't have to wear that, it would be a fanny pack.
Their strap system is really unique because it's like a reverse racerback shirt, isn't it? Where it's like it's not like straps, right? Because they come. I don't know how to explain it. You got to look it up.
It's like an X strap. It goes right. It's like you're like Iron Man, like superhero, like forces activate.
Bar bags or backpacks? I guess the simple. Do you prefer bags on your bike or on your back?
I do both. Yeah, I'm a little bit of like, what if? Yeah, it's like where I start to dabble in like the weird prepper category. Like, oh, maybe I need a generator because you never know if there's going to be I do kind of do both, but also because I film, so like that's like my fake excuse. Like I need to carry more things than other people, which is like barely true. But again, like I was saying earlier, recently I like a bar bag, but if I have to do an on bike, I've been leaning towards the half frame bag because it's more inside the frame and you can still access water. And it just doesn't like rattle bounce all over the place as much.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. So this is something I talk about with my bike friends a lot, and I think you're going to get it. So another tangent here for us. I am super particular about the bag placement on a bike and how it works within the overall lines of the bike. And I know that's like it is functional because the bag needs to have enough liter capacity and stuff. But I hate bags that like protrude from the bike or change like the aesthetic kind of on a linear way of the bike. I feel like you might have some really good thoughts on bike bags and how they work with frames and whatnot.
You know what's funny is that's where again I love how before I was like function style. Like to me, function. Like I don't care how the bike looks as long as it's doing what it's. I really think of bikes as tools. They're just like a friend of mine was like, I think of them as instruments, and I was like, well, la-di-da, like this is a fucking hammer, and I'm gonna drop it on the ground because So. Yeah, like I don't get too hung up on like I'll put like a frame pump bar on a bike, and I have to have people be like, yo, why would you put that on that bike? It's like, because I fucking need a pump that works. Yeah. Like I don't care. Like I don't have to carry it. It's on the bike. Mm-hmm. So yes, I love these like, like, oh, the hypocrite in me. I love it because you're like, oh yeah, like, oh, it's good. It's good.
So in your design mind, how would you integrate that frame pump with the half frame bag? Would you just put the pump in the bag, or would you like design it around it?
That's what I've been doing, is pump in the bag. Or kind of my favorite move, if I have enough of these mounts, is those pumps come with these mounts that go on the seat tube bottle cage. And it's just like a
Mm,
functional spot, and
yeah.
there's nothing
Yep.
else there, and it doesn't take a bag space, and it's just like.
Yep.
And then also these pumps are like high volume pumps. So
Yeah.
like I get you could use those little like Lizine, like, oh, is it chapstick or is
Yeah.
it a pump? Like I don't have any of those. I'm like an
Yeah.
idiot and I carry the biggest one I can manage. Uh yeah. Did I have a point? I don't think I did.
Because another bike sub topic is tires, which we don't have to get into because that's not this episode, but also you're a regional person, like to run bigger tires, so you need a high volume pump.
Because of the big tires. That, yes, thank you for that. Right.
Yeah, not this episode, but also had to throw it in there as a bike guy that, big tires are better.
Well, and then the irony of the pumps too is like it's just insurance. It's like this crap that you carry. You hope you never use it, and
Yes.
generally you
Yeah.
don't. It's like this funny, but if you don't have it, you are very much screwed. So
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely one of those tools. There's a lot of them, and there's definitely a crossover here between bikes and DIY as well. There's a lot of tools that once you don't have it, you never end up not having it again. Like I've broken 2 chains on rides. I always have a chain tool with me. Have I ever used it? No, because the 2 times I broke it, I didn't have one. But now I always have that that thing in my bag. And it's the same with making stuff. Or like once you use certain types of presser feet, like when you use a zipper foot, you're never not going to use it again. You might,
yeah.
there's some of those tools where you're like, I need this, and I might not use it ever again, but I will have it because that memory is lasting.
Well, and then there's this element of like when we're doing these adventure rides, like it's essentially your like survival can hinge
Yeah.
on this like one tiny dumb little thing, and you're like, well, do I walk 6 hours out of this, or do I like carry this thing because it's the difference between rolling or not?
Yeah.
And then if the weather's crazy and the sun's going down, like it can be like very dangerous. We're such
Definitely.
badasses. Yeah, we're pretty much just living between life and death at every single moment.
The final rapid fire question that I have written down, I don't think another one's going to come to mind, is custom or modify. Do you like starting with a clean slate, or do you like modifying after the fact?
I like modifying because it helps with the decision-making process. Like I'll see something and be like, I don't like that. I would rather it be this. Instead of like blank piece of paper with like a million markers, you're like, oh, like I don't even know what to do first. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, we've made it through all the questions, despite all treacher through. So
thank you, Internet. Thank you, Comcast. This episode is brought to you by Comcast.
This episode has not been brought to you by Comcast, largely, I think.
Internet that's there even when you want it. No, internet that's not there, especially when you want it.
Especially when you need it.
Oh, need it.
Well, yeah. Dustin, thank you for joining us on the episode today. It's been super, super fun.
Little glitch here.
Oh, of course.
Wait, try to say the ender again, just in case.
Dustin, thanks for joining us again on this episode. It's been really, really fun, despite all of the Wi-Fi problems.
I was just trying to think of something witty to say. Thanks for having me. Next time I'll bring the better internet.
Next time
I'm trying. I don't know. They don't all land.
I'm going to sit next to the router. Like next time we're going to record I'm going to be like in the IT room, like hardwired 2 feet away from the router. Just like the camera's going to be like up my nose, but it'll be perfect connection.
Holding the router like, okay, this should work.
All right, we're going to shut this thing down.